Welcome into We Are Soccer Central, where we gather knowledge and perspectives from across the footballing universe. I'm your host, as always, Robert Kerr. Pleased to be with you once again. Today, we are joined by a veteran of the college soccer landscape here stateside, entering his 14th year at the helm of the Butler Bulldogs after a decade plus on staff at the University of Michigan. I'm happy to welcome in to the program head coach of Butler's men's soccer program, Coach Paul Snape. Thank you for joining me today.
Oh, absolute pleasure. Thanks for having me on there. I'm excited to talk with you, get to meet you.
Yeah, thank you so much for spending time. I know you're busy. We are into the second week of August. You are in the midst of preseason, just from a college soccer that's well in the mix. You've gone through this cycle a number of times. What is preseason in August in the college soccer coaching world like?
Hectic, hectic. We've never got enough time. We've never got enough time. I think this is my 21st preseason as a coach, and I played at Oakland University and I had four as a player there. One of the challenging parts of preseason in college is we only really get 16 days from the time you start to your regular season opener, 16 days. And within there, most people will play 2 to 3 scrimmages. And you don't get too many opportunities to really develop your team, not as much as you'd like, but that is everybody's in the same situation. So what you got to do is make sure the guys come in super fit so you can work on the tactics, you can work on all the kind of philosophy, the concepts. And we always tell the players, don't come in unfit. Unlike the pro game that has 6 to 7 weeks, we got to really get after it straight away. We've already had one preseason game on the fourth day last Friday against Northern Kentucky. We'll be playing Michigan State tonight, and then in 5 days, we've got another one. So you've got to kind of shape your team. It's never going to be perfect, but you've got to prioritize and get the main concepts you want dialed in.
You're asking your team to come in fighting fit. So
Hmm.
the summer club season that wrapped up at the end of July, do you keep a close eye on where your players are playing and what they're doing and performing in the summer league season?
Yeah, 100%. Everybody's a little different. I remember as a player, I had a wonderful time playing for, there was the Mid-Michigan Bucks, then Michigan Bucks, now Flint City Bucks. I really enjoyed it, but everybody's a little different. You want to make sure the guys are sharp, tactically, technically, physically, and you got to make sure some of them get extra minutes, play a lot, and then other guys you don't want to overplay them so they can. You want to be peaking in college in October and November. So it's case by case, but certainly it's a platform in the summer to really help with our guys' fitness. If they can get 8 to 10 games in, then I don't have to work on too much their fitness during the preseason. We can go straight into the tactics and how we want to play.
He spent a long time in the PDL with the Bucks. What do you think of how that whole scene has expanded with the USL2 now as it's rebranded?
Yeah, I always call it the PDL. It was the Premier Development League, which is this USL too. But I came here in '96. I think I've been here 28 years. Yesterday was 28 years, something like that. I've been in the country. But the summer of '97, I played in the USL 2 for the Michigan Bucks, and I had an amazing time. I think it's great. I think it's been an avenue, a platform to develop college kids. The Bucks, I'm obviously partial to the Bucks because that's my team, but they've had so many guys have gone on to becoming professionals in MLS, USL championships. So I think it's great to give those guys a competitive edge in the summer. College is very important. I'm a big believer in college. If you're a Christian Pulisic, who actually did play for the Michigan Rush one time, if you're that good, then going over to Europe does make sense. But for the other 98% of kids, I think college is a wonderful platform to develop, to compete, and to mature as a human being. So yeah, no, going with the summer and the fall, I think it can work together. It's not mutually exclusive.
Yeah, definitely a different way to prepare for a season with it. Like you said, you're in a very compact and condensed preseason after the players have all been at different clubs and locations. But so now that so how many days have you had the players now?
Whoa, what are we, day
About a
six right
week?
now? I think no. What day are we? Monday? Well, we're day 7. So we've had 4 training days, 1 game, 1 day off, play tonight, day off. So yeah, we're on day 7.
So at what point do you get a hold of like where your team's at and where you can like set expectations?
Yeah, you obviously you do a lot of planning and preparation before the season. It's constantly all year round. People say, "Hey, when do you take time off?" You actually maybe not in the office, but you're mentally. I find out a lot of coaches are the same. We're mentally never off. We're recruiting, we're developing, but we have a plan before preseason. But then there's no straight line. There's always going to be a curveball. A couple guys have come in injured that we got to work on. We're working on some tactics. We got to be flexible. There's some non-negotiables like fitness. Everybody's got to be able to handle the ball under pressure. Here's what we want to look like as a team. But then you got to be flexible where players are. So we had a game the other day. We just showed video for 45 minutes, which was very productive. So hopefully tonight we'll see a better understanding of how we attack as a unit, how we defend, see if we can get those relationships working better together. And it's basically as coaches, we need to provide clarity, but sometimes it takes a little bit of time. And with the players, you can't push them too much because you don't want them to be in the red zone and get injured, but you've got to somehow build up the training so they can withstand and produce the intensity and produce for consistently a lot of minutes out there.
Like I said, coming in, we are heading into your 14th season at
Yeah.
the helm of the Butler Bulldogs. What differences are there in the player pool that you're recruiting from and getting on the squad compared to when you took on the job?
Well, I've been here 14 years. Before that, I was at 8 years at Michigan, University of Michigan under Steve Burns, which I loved every moment of that experience. When I came here, it was actually Butler was in the Horizon League, and it was a difference between the Big Ten and the Horizon League. Butler basketball had done really well, went to 2 national finals, so that was great. Then we had 1 season Horizon, then we jumped to the A10, and then 10 months later we went to the Big East. The Big East is a wonderful conference. I think going into this conference, we can attract either more of a, you know, even higher level of recruit because when you tell them we're playing Creighton, we're playing Providence, we're playing Georgetown, players like to be challenged and go against the best. I feel like players in this day and age, even from 11, 12 years ago, has been more exposed to world soccer. So all my American players, they've been watching Man City, Liverpool, Man United, Real Madrid, all those, the platforms we provide to stream. And it's as accessible here in the States as it is in the rest of the world, which is wonderful. I do think sometimes we got to make sure the players I think the coaching has to evolve and get better, all of us, but you want to make sure the players still can take ownership. You don't want to give them every answer because there isn't an exact test, or even like football, American football, where everything's scripted. You've got to give the guys the tools to be able to find the solutions out there, and they're never the same. No game is ever the same. So we got to make sure as we develop these kids, we still hold them accountable. But overall, I've been loving it for 14 years now. We just want to be high expectations. We want to win championships. We won a couple, but it's not enough. We've got to have that never satisfied mentality to go out there and win and compete against the best. Non-conference, I'll go against Indiana, Marshall, Ohio State, Notre Dame, and we are right there toe to toe. It's just how do we get over that kind of last hurdle of being an elite team that goes to a Final Four and consistently wins championship. And that's what we're all trying to do, but we're really focused on doing that this winning championships this year.
Yeah, mid-table finish in 2023. What are you shooting for here this year?
Number one, you got to go for number one. It's like how we recruit. It's like we're right there, in the springs. And there's a couple things even last year that happened that we wish we could have changed. Some more injuries, which kind of does throw it off. One of the things here at Butler is we always want to create depth, but because we're an expensive private school, it's not as easy as if you're a public school. Like in Indiana, who's been one of the top three of all time, they can create some depth in different ways. We got to create depth and we got to keep guys healthy and we got to get the right kids who fit our philosophy. If a kid comes here and he doesn't want to do academics, that's not good for us. A kid has to be fully invested in the academics and he has to be fully committed to the soccer. And if we can get that type of athlete, whether he's a domestic kid or an international, then it's definitely something that will help us win games and championships.
Is the majority of the squad, what's the composition with uh, domestic players and
We,
internationals?
yeah, I'll probably around about 70%, 75% domestic, give or take. And then we got about 8 internationals this year out of 28. So yeah, so a little bit more. So yeah, around about 30, 70. I think it's I always my recruiting strategy will be look in Indiana, look in Indianapolis, look in Indiana first. Then I will go into the Midwest, Michigan, Chicago area, St. Louis, Ohio, Kentucky, and then we have these other little footprints, these states like Texas is really good. And they already have 4 or 5 Division Ones, but for a state of over 30 million, there's a lot of talent that has to leave and will leave. And then we go into Arizona, and then we find other states, maybe in Minnesota. And if there after that, we will go over to Europe for sure. England, we've got some Dutch, Spain, France. We've had some German kids, South American. When I go international, it's because they're special and they can bring value to our program. It's not because they were just born over there. There's a lot of kids over in Europe, England. Yeah, they say they can play, but they're no better over here. The one advantage with American kids, they've grown up and they believe in the culture of American sports, athletics, collegiate athletics. And I think that's so important. And I always tell the internationals, you've got to assimilate quickly into this American culture. We're not going to build the culture around you. You've got to come in there. And a lot of the internationals will embrace it, which is great. One or two will say, well, this is what we do over there. Well, you're not over there. This is where it is. So I'm a big believer in the college system. And I think there's some outstanding American talent, and we've got some outstanding internationals too.
How straightforward or not, how is it to explain to an international how like kind of the American soccer system works, or at least the college
Yeah,
system?
it's a little interesting when they hear they can come on subs back and forth, and then yeah, that's a little bit. They're like that's strange, and then how the playoffs works is a little bit different. We call it like the FA Cup. So I think the internationals, obviously, we're still playing football, soccer, but it is a little different. It's the intensity, and the internationals don't understand how it's 3 months, why we don't play as much. But once you grasp it, there's a lot of similarities. And, we do everything we can to help the internationals. Our American kids are wonderful. They really enjoy being around good international kids. And that's the thing is my job is to educate. Sometimes I'm a little harder, a little bit more disciplined on the internationals because I've been there and I don't want them to come with that elite mentality where like, hey, we're international, we're superior. And I'm like, no, no, there's so much talent in this country. What we got to do is drop your egos, check your egos, see if we can all come together and get the best out of each other.
What would be looking at the 2024 schedule for Butler men's soccer? What are some of the opponents and the dates that kind of like pop out? What are some of the prime time games that you have on your schedule this
Yeah, well,
year?
the first one's always the biggest, Southern Indiana, and it might not sound like a big name because they came a couple of years ago from Division Two, but it's the most important right now on our schedule. After that, I think you got to look at Indiana as our big rival. They're about 50 miles south of us, and we will get 6,000 people at that game. There's a lot of people who live in Indianapolis who will come to that, who went to IU come. So that's a massive non-conference. I see a really good Bowling Green's a good team. We got some others. Ohio State's a really good team. And then we got a local derby with IUPUI, which is a local. So that's like I don't want to say Liverpool Tranmere, you know
That's
that,
that's
yes,
the first
but
thing
in
I
a
was
way
thinking of.
it is. And IU Indy now, but they've always had, they're going to fight. They're going to play with a ton of pride. So non-conference, I think the biggest team is going to be IU, Ohio State from name recognitions, but we've got some other good ones. As for the Big East, we're going to start on the road at Akron, who's in the team. They're very good. UConn's coming to town. We've got at Creighton. Xavier's probably our biggest rival within there. So we've got a really, really competitive schedule. I like that as a player because I want to be challenged. I felt like my best when I was a player many years ago. I enjoyed those bigger games because it made my focus better, and it really kind of pushes our guys to come out of the comfort zone. But we got 17 regular season games, and we're all focused right now and really doing well for that first game against Southern Indiana.
Yeah, there's something to a rivalry game or the big stage that
Yeah.
brings more out of a player. What have you found that you can make that a replicatable energy or effort to have that all out when it's maybe not necessarily that shiny name on the
I
scoreboard?
think it's every day, it's your culture. It's setting the standards every single day because some of the games on our schedule might not seem as glamorous. Like Indiana is one of the top teams. I don't really need to get the guys up for that game because they will be. We just have to get the right tactics. But we have to keep the motivation. But it's an everyday thing with our players. We take nothing for granted. Complacency is the enemy of our success. So it's like little things like when we go in the locker room, if our locker room's not doing well, if it's untidy, or if we're late to getting things submitted, or we're not punctual, they're the things that will kill us in those other games that we speak about. Like complacency is something that we always work against, making sure that we're focused. It's we say right now one of our kind of tenets is everybody is a leader on our team, so everybody's helping each other, everybody's responsible for everything. If we can get that mentality into our team, then when we come up against those tricky games that the other opponent might be like, well, they're going to underestimate us. We've been trained to be able to discipline. We've been trained to focus. And it's so important. And that's why it's important to get some games on your schedule that you're not, you're supposed to win, but you have to go in there and you execute. And I think we've got some team games on here where our guys understand like we've got to be at 100% in these games. Otherwise, it's going to be very difficult to get a win.
Searching through your memory banks through your playing and coaching career, I like to ask it just away from the seriousness of the here and now. If you were to close your eyes and think of your favorite goal or moment in within your life in the game that you love, what would it be?
Oh, that's a good one. When I was young, I guess scoring at Anfield when I was a youth player up in the cup, I played against West Ham. It was a good one, scoring there. I remember when I was a young kid, I went into a mini Merseyside derby, which they call is the reserve team. And it was Liverpool reserves against Everton reserves. And I went in there and it was like, oh God, 5, 6, 7,000 in the games. And I was playing with some unbelievable John Barnes, who was my hero. Um,
Oh, mhm.
we had some fantastic. Steve Nicol was on that team. We had so many. I think there was only two guys who weren't professional first teamers. So I remember I played in two of those. I loved it. And then coming out to the States, I say playing for Oakland University. We went to the national final in my first year. I absolutely loved that. And yeah, playing out there. We beat Southern Connecticut in the semifinal. That was a brilliant game. And we went to the final. I scored in that one. I love playing for Oakland for Gary Parsons. And then with the Mid-Michigan Bucks, we played so many great games there. And we beat an MLS New England Revolution in the US Open Cup. And then the next round we played at Saginaw at White Pine Stadium. And well, 3-3, we lost on penalties to Miami Fusion. So there, as a coach, Michigan, I think we won the Big Ten. Wonderful team. We had this guy called Suni Saad, Justin Miram was up there, Hamoudi, and wonderful players. And we won the Big Ten and we went to a Final Four. And then for Butler, I think winning the Big East Championship in 2016 on a home venue in the tournament, and then the year after we won the regular season, a lot more memories, but they're the ones that stick out. But once you get those memories, you want more of them. You're never satisfied. You may be living it, but then you look back and go, no, I want more. And I can see why Pep Guardiola, Jurgen Klopp, and Sir Alex Ferguson, to name a few, like, it's an addictive feeling, and you can see why they want more of it. And it's like, you don't want to live too much in the past. You got to find that new memory, and it's what drives us competitors. And I want more of it. And I'm hoping at the end I can come on here in a few months and have a trophy to share and some more memories.
Yes, indeed. I was going to say, what's the next future memory you want to have?
Ooh. Win. I want to win that Big East for the guys here. I want that Big East, and if we do that, that means we've done well probably in the non-conference, so we can come up. If we do well in the Big East, if you win the Big East, you're probably a top 10 team out of 216. And that means you're up there, you're already getting a seed. And I want that for this team. I want this for all the staff. I want it for those players. I want it for the families. I want it for myself because that's what we do every day. We're competitive, and we've had a wonderful summer with the Euros and the Copa America and in the Olympics. I was watching the women's game the other day, the final against Brazil, and Emma Hayes was crying, and she's a magnificent coach, and she was with Chelsea, but she had a journey where she came to the States. And I always wanted to come to the States when I was a young kid growing up in England. My first thing, I want to be a professional, but I love the States. And I was watching her, and I'm like, God, I just felt very connected. I was like, she was so emotional. I'm like, yeah, that's what I love the States, and I love this, and I just want to win for everybody. So hopefully, saying it is one thing, going out there and executing is something a little bit more challenging, but we're really focused on doing it.
Yes, it's been a fantastic summer of soccer and
Oh,
a great
amazing.
fall ahead. Your Butler Bulldogs in the middle of preseason now and kicking off your competitive 2024 season on August 22nd against Southern Indiana. Coach Paul Snape of Butler Bulldogs, thank you so much for joining us here on We Are Soccer Central.
Oh, thank you so much, and thank you for spreading the game. It's a beautiful game. We've seen it for even Ted Lasso, like it brought everybody together, and that's what we're doing. It's a passion of mine, it's a passion of yours, and there's so many great soccer people in the state of Michigan, in this Midwest, in this country, and we got to keep developing it together, this sport. And as I say, it's brought so many people together. And in 2 years, where the World Cup's going to be here, wow, it's going to get you tickets, and that's what we're doing. My father-in-law, he was born and raised in Royal Oak, went to Kimball and all that. Didn't know much about soccer, but I met my wife, and he's on that phone non-stop. And that's something we want to keep building and growing this game. And your platform certainly does that. So thank you to you for doing this.
Much appreciated. It's the gift that keeps on giving, the sport that never sleeps, right?
100%. Cheers.